In this video, we're gonna go over the 7 reasons why you need to have a virtual law firm. And I don't wanna overhype this video, but this one could be a game changer. Welcome to Law Venture. My name's Jarrett Stone. And if you're new here, I recommend that you go down below, I think in that general area, maybe right here, I'm just guessing, and hit that subscribe button. And I think it's over there. It may be over there. The reason why I'm a little confused and disoriented right now is because it's been over 2 months since my last video. So the question you may be having for those who are currently subscribed, Jarrett, where have you been? Well, I appreciate you asking that question. And by the way, if you weren't asking that question, or if you didn't realize I'd been away for 2.5 months, then that kind of hurts a little bit. That stinks, but I'm willing to look past that and give you this answer, which is that for the last 2.5 months, I've been absolutely swamped growing my law practice, Stone Firm PLLC. In this 2.5 month period, I've signed up the most clients I've ever signed up, and I've settled the most cases I've ever settled. And things have been super, super busy, especially because I have a number of cases that I'm pushing through in order to get those resolved. And I'm having to play a whole bunch of chess with a whole bunch of different cases. It gets complicated. But the point here, when it comes to this particular video, is that during this time period, and actually, further out, if I start thinking about it a little bit more, I have been 100% a virtual law firm. And so the point of me saying I've never been this busy, I've never signed up so many cases, I've never settled so many cases, isn't to brag by any means, because I'm sure there are other law firms that are just dwarfing the amount of work I've done. So I'm not here to brag about that. My point here is that when it comes to a virtual law firm, I have had success from both ends, from signing up a client to resolving a case, all virtually, all from the comfort of my home, all from the office that you're seeing right now. And so if you're wondering whether or not a virtual law firm can work from beginning to end, I'm here to tell you it absolutely can, and that's why this video is a potential game changer. And because of this, I wholeheartedly believe that virtual law firms are the future of the legal industry, especially, I can't stress that enough, especially when it comes to small law. Now, small law is kind of a subjective phrase, but typically my rule of thumb with small law is that's a law firm with 10 or less employees. And my rationale and reasoning for wholeheartedly thinking and believing this is going to be expanded on in this video and future videos, all involving virtual law firms. If you have interest in virtual law firms after watching this video, or maybe even before watching this video, then I plan on posting not only subsequent videos, but keeping all those videos in a particular playlist here on YouTube. That way you can just basically get your virtual law fill, and you can watch anything and everything I have when it comes to talking about it, when it comes to giving you some pros and cons, and when it comes to implementing and using and maximizing your virtual law firm. That's a lot, but let's go ahead and kind of get back on pace for this particular video, because in this particular video, I'm for the most part going to assume that you either have your current law firm or you're dead set on starting your own law firm. But that's not to say that maybe if you're on the fence or you just want to entertain the idea of starting a law firm, that this video won't be beneficial to you. That's not the case. In reality, sometimes getting a little bit of the lay of the land can be nice to figure out if this is what you're interested in, or to see if this is what's going to turn you off from even starting your own law firm. In either event, that type of information in advance before you start going down that road can be extremely beneficial. My whole point when it comes to primarily benefiting those with a law firm or who are dead set on starting a law firm is I plan on directing most of this information to them, because that's going to have the most immediate impact to them, and then you can kind of figure out what's going to be beneficial in your situation. Okay, so with all of that said, let's go ahead and go through the 7 reasons why you need to have a virtual law firm. And let's start with reason number 3. I'm just kidding. I don't know any list that starts with reason number 3 or jumps around. So anyways, let's start with reason number 1. It has never been easier and it has never been cheaper to start a law firm and to go virtual. I'm not throwing out this bold assertion without giving you some hard facts in order to justify this bold assertion. So let's get serious. And to do that, I'm kind of giving you shark hands here. I don't know what you can see or can't see, but we're derailing very quickly. Let's get back to it. If I were to have you guess what my startup costs were in order to start my law firm, how much would you guess? $20,000 or more, $10,000 or more, $5,000 or more. In reality, none of those are correct. I spent less than $2,000 in order to start my own law firm. That's incredible. That's worth a... I can't stress this next part enough. In order for me to get my law firm up and going, running, to get this virtual law office set, to get the systems in place for the first 30 days, it cost me less than $2,000. That's insane. There are law firms that are spending $2,000 or more on their office space. And the biggest benefit in my mind was that I didn't have to go shopping for a loan from the bank in order to get started. So this simply means that the cost of entry in order to play the game is a whole lot lower than you may be thinking right now. Okay, so we know how much it costs for me to get the law firm up and going and running for those first 30 days. The question is, how much does it now cost per month in order for me to keep the system in place? Keeping in mind, I'm excluding salary from this and all the extra things. Instead, I'm just focusing here on the office overhead. And the answer is, it costs me $125 if I round up per month in order to keep the office systems in place in order to stay virtual. That is insanely low. One of the downsides to working from home and having a virtual office, she's barely barking now. I think she heard me. There it is. So for perspective, it only cost me $1,500 per year in order for me to keep this virtual law office going up and running for an entire year. So in my situation, let's just say it was $2,000 worth of startup costs, and I know I want to be in business for at least a year, so there's another $1,500, $3,500 for an entire year. Now, keeping in mind, this does take out of the equation salary and making sure I have money coming in. But let's go ahead and just put that on the back burner, even though that's extremely important, and just talk about the principle of having this virtual law office in place. Because what you'll realize, and we'll talk about this later, is that whenever your office overhead is this tiny, that allows you to have much more flexibility when it comes to salaries and when it comes to spending your money much more wisely. Let's move on to the second reason why you need to have a virtual law firm. And this one is simple. You probably don't need a traditional law office. Now look, I will be the first to admit that my ego was very resistant to just going 100% virtual law office. In my mind, I pictured a law firm and I pictured what I saw on TV, the hustle bustle, the great view, having just the office space, having somewhere to go. But then I started thinking about it. Do I really need, out of necessity, this law office space? Because I'm either in the courtroom, or I'm on the phone, or I'm behind a computer and I'm drafting something, I'm writing a motion, I'm writing a response. Do I really need to have the space? And do I really need to be paying for that space? Do I really need to be having that overhead? And then the more I thought about it, the more I started coming to the conclusion, and this is absolutely true, especially now looking back, that an office space, especially in today's world, is more of a luxury than a necessity, especially if you're a small law firm. My biggest critique of the legal industry is that we're typically, 15 years behind the times when it comes to technology. But whenever I sat down and I thought about it, when it comes to the pros and cons of going virtual, I realized that I can do everything electronically. Well, at least for the most part, with some few exceptions, and we'll flesh that out later. But I sign clients up over the phone. If I need to have a virtual conference call, that's becoming much more normal. When it comes to sending, receiving money to a client or to a doctor, I can do that all electronically. I can wire the money, I can use Zelle, but keeping in mind that some doctors are maybe 10 years behind technology, so if they hear wire or Zelle over their head, they have no idea what's going on. But when it comes to maybe sending or receiving documents, email or fax. So all of this, all these forms of communication, I realize that it's all done electronically, and that's all done to the convenience of the client. Clients typically don't want to have to drive, 20 minutes to an actual office, maybe wait 5 minutes, and then they talk to you for another 10 minutes, and then they drive 20 minutes back home. They don't want to take off time from work in order to have maybe a 10-minute conversation. Instead, they rather pick up the phone, have that 10-minute conversation, be done with it, and go ahead and move on about their day. Same with money. They don't want to have to come in and pick up a check whenever they can look in their account and see that it's already deposited. All of this makes life so much easier for the client, but maybe more importantly, it makes it easier for your law practice. Another huge benefit with going virtual. Now, I did say that there are some exceptions, and most of them are pretty rare, but the most common one that I deal with is I'll send papers to a client who is interested in becoming a client, I should say, so a potential client at that time who eventually does become a client. And the papers will be like a contract and intake form and some other things to fill out. I try and make it super easy for them to where all they have to do is just, type everything out on whatever PDF program they have, and they can save it and send it back. But a lot of people, they prefer to just print it out, write whatever they want to write. But unfortunately, they may have a printer, but not a printer and a scanner. And so they don't scan it back, or their scanner isn't working, which is fairly common. And so what I say in that situation is you can either scan it back to me or simply just go drop it off at the doctor's office. And if they do the latter, I'll just go to the doctor's office, because in a personal injury case, they're typically still treating with a doctor. And so they're already going to the doctor's office regularly. And so I'll go pick it up, and then I'll also talk to the doctor, see how treatment for that particular client's going. We strategize a little bit, and hopefully I make a good impression with that doctor as well, to where if they want to send me other cases, and I'm like, sure, I'll take it. And that's kind of essentially the only time I'm having to, I guess, not electronically do something. So what I end up doing is pick up the documents, come back to the virtual office, put it in the scanner, and then now once it's scanned, it's on my laptop, and I have a virtual copy that if I need to save it, I can save it, copy it, send it. I can do all of that, but that's just the one exception to keep in mind. Now, this next part is less of an exception and more of food for thought, which is the potential concern that when it comes to depositions, I may need office space. And the reason why I'm not remotely concerned about not having office space and then having depositions is, one, because I'm not having depositions every week or every other week. And two, virtual depositions are becoming much more accepted and much more common. And three, I can always piggyback off of the opposing counsel's office space, which more often than not they have, to where I can just go take the deposition at their office space. So basically they're having to pay for the overhead, and that allows me to benefit from that. Or four, if I really want to have kind of my home-based territory, there are tons of offices that allow you to rent like a conference room for relatively cheap in order to have that all day, in order to have your deposition. With this last one, I have no problem actually paying a premium, because most likely that premium for that conference room is going to be much cheaper than me having office space that I'm having to pay each and every month. Now, keep in mind, we're still talking about the second reason why you need to go virtual. And this one is just so huge, but there's one more thing I do want to talk about that falls under this category, which is that whenever you're virtual, it feels so good to not be at the mercy of rising rental rates. If you're dead set on having office space, but you also want to make sure that you're not spending more and more money each year, then what you're gonna have to do is live a nomadic lifestyle, to where your office space is having to move each and every time your landlord tries to increase the price. But that is going to be exhausting, because every time you move, you're gonna have to change your address when it comes to your business cards, to your website, to your court filings, to maybe the insurance companies, maybe when it comes to settlement checks, maybe future clients are gonna, be confused about where you are, maybe current clients, and you're gonna have to set up, internet, electricity, and all of that each and every time. And it's gonna cost you to move, most likely, unless you're moving yourself, and then you have to find the friend who has a truck, and then the friend doesn't really wanna do it, so you have to find a friend's cousin who has a truck that you can maybe use, and we know that's most likely not gonna happen. Maybe the office space you wanna move in doesn't have enough room for the couch that you paid, $500 for, but people won't even take it off your hands for free on Craigslist. Yeah, some of this actually has happened to me in the past, not moving office spaces, but moving apartments and then finally ending up here. So a little bit of PTSD there. But all that to say, whenever you're virtual, it is such a relief to not have to worry about, like, I don't know, your term coming up to where, okay, now the lease is over. Let's see how much this is gonna spike up again, and you keep it locked down. Now you may be wondering, how in the world do you have an address? Do you have everything sent to your house? How does that work? I don't feel comfortable doing that. Well, actually, I have a permanent mailbox, but we'll kind of talk about the pros and cons and what all to do in that situation in another video, so stay tuned. The number 3 reason why you need to have a virtual law firm is because of scaling, but not the scales of justice back there. I'm talking about a different kind of scaling. This one is so important, especially for those that are either just now starting their own law firm or they're in the process of starting their own law firm. And the reason why is if you go virtual first, if you have that shoestring budget, if you're balling on a budget, that's going to allow you to have enough time to start profiting sooner and to start developing that steadier income as your clientele increases. This is a whole lot better than just jumping in and diving into the deep end and immediately having massive amount of overhead with a minimal amount of income with minimal clients. And so what you can do by starting virtual is start kind of establishing your law firm, establishing your brand. And then once you're at that point where your clients and your workload justifies you maybe hiring more people, then you hire more people. And then at that point, you're at a crossroads. Do you stay virtual? Or if your hopes and dreams are to have a huge law practice downtown to where you have the great views, you have the huge square footage, then you make that decision as well. If you're not there at that point yet, then wait until your clientele and your income gets you to that point. And then again, you make that decision whether or not you should stay virtual or if you should go the more traditional route. In either event, by starting out with your virtual law practice, that's going to give you the momentum to where you're not having to worry in the beginning stages of not making rent and not paying your expenses. That gives you the time to start establishing yourself. That gives you the time to start establishing your income. So the point here is that as your income and clientele grows, then you can grow your law practice with it, hence the scaling. Now this just naturally takes us to reason number 4, which is by having a virtual law office, you're minimizing your risk and you're maximizing your potential. The logic here is simple. By minimizing your expenses, you're going to better weather the storm whenever there are slow months or there are months where income just simply doesn't come in, especially whenever you're first getting started. But when the money does come in, you can really use that extra cash in order to maximize your firm's potential, in order to grow your firm. So let's say all this extra money's coming in, and we're going to exclude out of the equation paying salary, but extra money's coming in. Well, in that situation, then you can start maybe putting more money towards marketing. That more money towards marketing may result in you getting more cases. Those more cases may result in more money. More money goes towards more marketing. More marketing goes towards more cases. More cases, yeah, you get the point. But here's what is super scary, and here's the issue that some law firms run into. I know a law firm that was paying $7,000 per month for their office space. That is super expensive. And the situation they had required them to have, I don't know how many cases that needed to settle each and every month in order for them to not only pay the overhead when it comes to the office space, but also pay the employees. And the issue they found themselves in was that they would have to spend more money on marketing in order to cover that overhead. So they were having to go more into the hole to hopefully come out the other end making enough money to cover everything. That right there is terrifying because you're needing more money. In order to get more money, you're having to spend more money in the hopes that the money you're spending towards marketing is going to convert into, hopefully, clients that lead to more money. But the problem there is marketing, it isn't a sure thing. And if it doesn't pan out, and you're going to have to most likely spend maybe more money on marketing to where you hopefully just shotgun approach it, and then hopefully you get more clients that will hopefully bring in more money. But you see the problem there is you don't really know how much more money you have to put in, how much more money you have to get into the hole essentially in order to come out the other end. And so that right there is a dangerous game that you don't want to have to play. And so if you can minimize your expenses and you can essentially give yourself the freedom of using the money to market if you want to scale and grow, or using the money to pay for any extra overhead, or just, let's say, store it in case there are slow months, virtual law firms are going to be the safest approach, hands down. This right here takes us to number 5, which I also think is a natural progression. Reason number 5 why you need to have a virtual law firm, especially at the very beginning, is because it'll allow you to build good habits. We want to be lean, we want to be mean, we want to be balling on a budget. And if you can start out this way, if you can really see that you don't need all these luxurious items, you don't need a whole bunch of just things that you don't really use, then whenever you are scaling, you can scale appropriately and you can keep it balling on a budget, but just with a bigger ball. Reason number 6 for having a virtual office is that I truly believe it has made me much more productive. For example, I'm saving time by not traveling to and from the office. And I have to say that it's super convenient that if work goes long, then I'm already home. I don't have to worry about a long drive, or if I want to work a little on the weekend, I have everything already set up. It's just a matter of going into my office and knocking out that work. And just between you and me, there have been 1 or 2 or more times where you hit an afternoon lull. It's pretty nice to get like a 30-minute power nap in and then to come back pretty refreshed. Reason number 7 gets to the heart and soul of having a virtual law firm, which is that you'll be able to work anywhere and everywhere if you set it up right. To have the ability to maybe be in a different city, different state, different country, and be able to be productive, to work on a client's case, to keep the client happy, to bring in money, that feeling right there is absolutely amazing. Okay, that sums up this video, so you know what that means. It's time for me to go through my checklist. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, leave a comment, check out the description. You know the drill. I'll see you in the next video.